Welcome back to HardBall. Well, the new Washington Post poll finds that only 20% of the country, 1 in 5 of our people around us in this country, say they're a Republican. That's 1 in 5. That might make you think Republican hopes for 2010, the next year's congressional elections, are dim. But look at this. In our most recent NBC News poll, 40% of the country says they'd like to see Republicans control Congress after next year's election. That's basically the same as the 43% who'd like to see the Democrats hold power. So could just say no be the solution for Obama's enemies? Just say no to him. Is that smart? Link Chafee's called, a former Republican senator from Rhode Island, who's now an independent running for governor of the great state, the island state. And Vin Weber's a Republican congressman from the heartland of America in Minnesota, the home of Michelle Bachmann. Isn't that right?
And
just
Minnesota
kidding.
Vikings.
Just kidding.
And now Brett Favre.
Let me go with Link Chafee. Senator, you're running for governor. You're still, I guess your heart's still a bit right of center. I guess I'm saying that because you got to speak on the question of politics to the Republicans. Is just saying no on everything, if Obama's name on it, you dump it. Is that smart?
Well, on health care, I do think the Republicans are being very hypocritical, because it was only a few short years ago that the Republican-controlled Congress with a Republican-controlled White House passed a prescription drug benefit, about a $600, $700 billion addition to Medicare.
That's right.
And so now they're saying that health care is too expensive, it's socializing. Well, I was there when the Republicans rammed through the prescription drug benefit package without any reforms to Medicare. And it pained me as a Republican to be accused by the Democrats of being fiscally irresponsible, but that's the way I felt at the time. So I do think it's hypocritical now for the Republicans to say that this is a big socialistic project when just a few years ago the Republicans put on the prescription drug benefit to Medicare.
Well, you've got some other Republican leaders of the past who are out there now, Bob Dole, Bill Frist, Howard Baker. They all say Republicans should work to get something done on health care, not just say no. But they're not running for office anymore. I know you're about to chuckle here, right. Vin Weber. So, in other words, Republicans who are now eminence greases, grand old men of the party, why would they have a different view than people running for office?
Well, because they're not running for office. And by the way, none of them have endorsed a specific plan. I don't think any of those guys who I know and like and respect would be voting for any of the Democrat plans if they were actually in the Congress of the United States.
A compromise?
They'd be trying to negotiate, but other Republicans have tried to negotiate. Look, there's an ideological divide here. The objectives of the Democratic administration are different than the objectives of the Republicans in Congress. And back to Senator Chafee's point, precisely because they lost their fiscally conservative brand in the Bush administration by doing exactly what Senator Chafee talked about, big programs, no way to pay for them, they're not going to do it again.
Well, a lot of the Republican Party seems to be going south these days, literally. You once had 55 senators, including you, Senator Chafee, in the Senate. Now you got 40 members. That's not much of a caucus anymore. You used to have 232 members in the House of Representatives just 4 years ago. Now you got 177. So you're definitely shrinking as a party. And the place you're shrinking most, as you know most, is in New England. There's no Republican member of Congress in New England. None at all right now in a part of the country that used to be dominated by Yankee Republicans. Here's George Voinovich, who was governor of Ohio and a senator, and he's still a senator. He said there's too many Jim DeMints and Tom Coburns. People hear them and they say, these people, they're all Southerners. The party's being taken over by Southerners. Why the hell they got it? What's that got to do with Ohio? Your thoughts, Link Chafee. Is the party too Dixie? The Republican Party.
Well, the agenda definitely hurts those of us in other parts of the country. And you mentioned the Northeast, but certainly in Minnesota, Norm Coleman couldn't survive. And out in Oregon, Gordon Smith couldn't survive. And so it's across the country where that Southern-dominated agenda just doesn't sell. And the big question now is whether the party of no is going to be politically successful. And I don't think so. Too many Americans care deeply about these issues. And they want to have an honest debate. And just to say no to everything, I don't think that's going to be politically advantageous to the Republican Party.
Senator, why did you give up the Republican Party loyalty? Why did you give it up? You're now running as an independent for governor. Why? Was that practicality or is that belief or what?
Well, I thought long and hard about it because having been a lifelong Republican, a Rockefeller Republican, if you will, I wondered if the pendulum would come back to my kind of conservatism. And I say balanced budgets, caring about the environment, not getting into these quagmires overseas, and the constitutional liberties, particularly no wiretapping without a warrant, freedom of speech. That's my kind of conservatism. And I didn't think the pendulum was going to come back. And so with some regret, I jumped the fence and became an independent.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for you, the neocons took over your party. Your party became the hawk party on every issue. That's my thought. You don't have to share.
The Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment.
I know that's your thought.
It has become the party that's the knee-jerk yes to war, no to everything else.
Well, the president's going to look to those Republicans to support him on that war, is my guess. So
let me ask you, Vin Weber, about you left Congress. Let me ask you this: what is so unseemly about being a Republican congressman anymore?
Listen, let me make a couple of points.
Michelle Bachmann, there's somebody from your state who's a bit out there, a bit further out.
She says controversial things. She's going to get reelected in her district in Minnesota. Look, we Republicans lost control of the Congress in the 2006 election because of a couple of big issues, and it had nothing to do with what we're talking about here. Opposition to the Iraq War.
Right.
And opposition to Republican corruption, mainly in the House of Representatives. It wasn't about any positive agenda put forward by the Democrats. It was about opposition to something the country didn't like that the Republicans are doing. Well, now, a big chunk of the country, that part that might vote Republican, doesn't like doubling the debt in the next 5 years, tripling it in the next 10 years.
You guys just doubled the debt before.
And we're atoning for our sins.
But you claim you're worse, you're hypocritical, aren't you? You say you're fiscally conservative.
If you've made a mistake in the past, the right thing to do, Chris, is stop making that mistake.
The president didn't veto a single spending bill.
Bush is gone. We're talking about the new administration now, and Republicans are on the right side of this issue. Let me say one last thing. There's no downside to saying no to these spending proposals, but that can't be the end of the story. I agree with Senator Chafee.
Okay.
Longer-term Republicans need a positive agenda.
Here's my question. We've had time in recent history when the Republican parties controlled the White House and both houses of Congress. Why didn't they do their version of health care reform when they had all the power? Senator? Why didn't your party do something when it had all the power? You talk about Republican solutions, Republican alternatives, and the minute you have the power to do those things, you don't do them. You wait for the Democrats to come along, and then you trip them up.
Tried to do Social Security. Yes. This is probably a tactical error.
Your thoughts?
On Social Security, certainly I was there for that, and the president and his administration would not compromise in any way. It was going to be their way or no bill at all. And there were some good ideas to reforming Social Security, but typical of the Bush-Cheney administration, no area to have honest discussion about some give and take on this very, very important issue. I'll add one other thing that's, I think, fascinating, is that Lindsey Graham co-authored an op-ed piece with John Kerry on climate change. So Senator Graham, Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, he's saying, I think, this party of no, this no to everything, is not good politics. Why else would he co-author that letter about joining in on climate change with John Kerry?
Because Lindsey Graham is smart.
He's one of the smartest senators in the Senate. That's right.
He's not willing to say there's no science, there's no evolution. You got people in your party that say they don't, but they know they're all kidding, of course, because they're playing to the very right-wing church people. There's never been evolution. All those millions of bones millions of years of bones out there we keep discovering. Lucy, the Leakeys keep finding. Oh, they were all planted there by liberals from New York. I mean, you guys, you say things like you don't believe in evolution, you don't believe in climate change.
That. What are you talking about,
your party
you guys?
is run by its Yahoo wing.
That's right, Chris.
It's so much fun being on here with you.
Well,
you
don't
not
believe a Yahoo.
You don't believe there's Republicans and Democrats. You believe there's good and evil.
No,
I know which side you got me on tonight.
I think there's some moderate Republicans, my brother, for example. But I mean, do you believe in evolution? Yes. Do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
Okay, see, it was a little slow there, wasn't it?
Well, I believe in climate change, but it's a more complicated issue than that. You got to ask, how much do you think that human activity is contributing to climate change? How much other factors? What price are you willing to pay to try to reduce climate change?
And ask if you believe in clean coal or not. But you have to say yes. Anyway, thank you. Link Chafee, Senator, Governor, I wish you good luck as an independent. There's a great tradition up there. Lowell Weicker up there, Angus King. I know you've seen these prophets of independence before.
Senator, don't listen to this guy. Come back to the Republican Party.
Good luck as an independent.
You'll like it better if you're back with us.
I loved your dad, too, like everybody else did, John Chafee. Thank you, sir, for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Link Chafee, senator from Rhode Island and perhaps the next governor. And Vin Weber, a great man. He's no Michelle Bachmann. You don't want to investigate the members of the Democratic Party.
Michelle Bachmann is a friend of mine. What is this thing with you and Michelle Bachmann?
Because I asked her one time, do you think that the Congress should be investigated for anti-American thinking? And she said, yes. That's what I wonder about. Up next, maybe they should just be investigated for thinking.